Yeah, I think we are connected now. Okay. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Dasya Jnananjala Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namah Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advait Kadadara Shivasadi Gaur Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Thank you all the devotees for giving me opportunity to serve you all, and it is always my pleasure to be of some service to the devotees of the everyday chant group in the US. So as Mataji shared, that will be starting reading from the 7th canto, 4th chapter and 31st or 37th verse. So today's topic is about astrology, karma and bhakti, and specifically I would like to address some very crucial points for all the devotees, because many devotees, they have this question about whether devotees should consult astrology or not, whether it is good for devotees, and how much importance they should give to astrology. So we'll be discussing about that. Okay, let me share the screen. Okay. So reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, 7th canto, 4th chapter, verse number 37. Nyastya Kridana Kobalo Jravatan Manastaya Krishna Graha Kriyat Ma Naved Jagad Idrisham. Synonyms: Nyasta, having given up; Kridanaka, all sportive activities or tendencies for childhood play; Bala, a boy; Jadavat, as if dull, without activities; Tat, Manastaya, by being fully absorbed in Krishna; Krishna Graha, by Krishna, who is like a strong influence, like a Graha or planetary influence; Rita Atma, whose mind was fully attracted; no, not Ved, understood; Jagat, the entire material world; Idrisham, like this. Translation: from the very beginning of his childhood, Prahlad Maharaj was uninterested in childish playthings. Indeed, he gave them up altogether and remained silent and dull, being fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. Since his mind was always affected by Krishna consciousness, he could not understand how the world goes on, being fully absorbed in the activities of sense gratification. Purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Prahlad Maharaj is the vivid example of great person fully absorbed in Krishna consciousness. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 8.274, it is said, Stavara Jangama dekhe na dekhe tara murti sarvatra haya nija ishta deva spurti. A fully Krishna conscious person, although situated in this material world, does not see anything but Krishna everywhere and everywhere, anywhere and everywhere. This is the sign of a Mahabhagavat. The Mahabhagavat sees Krishna everywhere because of his attitude of pure love for Krishna, as confirmed in the Brahma Samhita 5.38. Premanjana Charita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Deshu Vilokayanti Yamsham Sundaram Achinta Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tam Maham Bhajami. I worship the primal Lord Govinda, who is always seen by the devotee, whose eyes are anointed with the pulp of love. He is seen in this eternal form of Shyam Sundar, situated within the heart of the devotee. An exalted devotee or Mahatma, who is rarely to be seen, remains fully conscious of Krishna and constantly sees the Lord within the core of his heart. It is sometimes said that when one is influenced by evil stars like Saturn, Rahu, or Ketu, he cannot make advancement in any prospective activity. In just the opposite way, Prahlad Maharaj was influenced by Sri Krishna, the supreme planet, and thus he could not think of the material world and live without Krishna consciousness. That is the sign of a Mahabhagavat. Even if an enemy of Krishna even if one is an enemy of Krishna, Mahabharata sees him to be engaged in Krishna's service. Another crude example is that everything appears yellow to the jaundiced eye. Similarly to Mahabharata, everything but himself appears to be engaged in Krishna's service. Prahlad Maharaj is the approved Mahabharata, the supreme devotee. In the previous verse, it was stated that he had natural attachment. Naisargiki Rati, the symptoms of such natural attachment for Krishna are described in this verse. Although Prahlad Maharaj was only a boy, he had no interest in playing. As stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.42, Viraktir Anyatra Cha. The symptom of perfect Krishna consciousness is that one loses interest in all material activities. For a small boy to give up playing is impossible. But Prahlad Maharaj, being situated in first-class devotional service, was always absorbed in the trance of Krishna consciousness. Just as a materialistic person is always absorbed in thoughts of material gain, a Mahabharata like Prahlad Maharaj is always absorbed in the thoughts of Krishna. Hare Krishna. Okay, so here we can see that Prabhupada is insisting so much on the effect of Krishna consciousness. So if devotees are fully Krishna conscious, then they don't even have to discuss about anything else. Just by being Krishna conscious, just by being absorbed in Krishna, there is no question of being in touch with karma, and there is no question of distress for the devotees, because everything in Krishna consciousness is blissful. So even though there may be obstacles and problems, sufferings, but these sufferings are actually very blissful for the devotee, because in those sufferings they are always seeing the Lord. And Prahlad Maharaj is one of the examples. Similarly, the Pandavas, they are also another example of this kind of attitude, because they are completely purified of all material contamination. In fact, they are Nityasiddha devotees of the Lord. So they are coming from the spiritual world, and there are certain sadhana siddha who have also perfected their life. So we are also sadhakas, and if we also try to cultivate the same attitude, then we'll be transcendental to all these material happiness and distress, and we'll always experience the bliss of Krishna consciousness. So we'll always be in the planet of Krishna Graha, right? So now let us go through what exactly Srila Prabhupada talks about astrology, how a devotee should perceive astrology, how much useful astrology is for a devotee, right? So before that, I would like to share that astrology is definitely a bona fide Vedic science, and it is not just Vedanga, but it is also, there are 6 Vedangas, which are the auxiliaries to the Vedic scriptures. But apart from just being a Vedanga, it is also mentioned in the Shrutis and the Smritis. So we'll not go into the detail of that, because everyone in India knows, or abroad knows, the bona fide authenticity of the Jyotish Sastras or astrology. So basically, the 6th Vedanga, one of the 6 Vedangas, is the Jyotish Sastra, and that is called as astrology. And what is the meaning of Jyotish? Jyot, Ish, made up of 2 words, Jyot and Ish. So Ish means Ishwar, and Jyot means to enlighten, so to spread the radiance, right? So it's a science which is enriched with the divine radiance. That is referred to as astrology or Jyotish Shastra. Now we'll refer to Srila Prabhupada's statements from different purports or conversations or letters. So I would like to share the screen so everyone can see it well while I read it. See, because it is very important for all the devotees to know what our acharyas they are saying about astrology. It is not, it's not so important how we perceive astrology. So different devotees, they are at different stature of spiritual lives, and everyone has a relative consideration about astrology. So it is also very important to see through the eyes of the acharya, because for us, Srila Prabhupada is the ultimate authority. And if we follow Srila Prabhupada's instruction, if we dedicate ourselves to Srila Prabhupada, if we please Prabhupada, then that is the perfection for us. We don't need to do anything else. Whatever Prabhupada said, if we just stick to that, then we don't need to bother about anything else. Okay, so for ISKCON devotees, Prabhupada is the ultimate authority, and it is always important to see through the eyes of Srila Prabhupada. Of course, Srila Prabhupada quotes from Acharyas and Guru and Shastra, Guru Sadhu Sastra. So these things are very important, and they are the ultimate authority for a devotee in a particular sampradaya and parampara. So let us go through the different statements by Srila Prabhupada. So here Prabhupada is saying, we are starting with the lecture that Prabhupada gave on Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela 20.125 till 136, December 5th, 1966, New York. Okay, so now the poor man asks the astrologer, yes, what you say is right. I have heard also that my father is very rich man and he has left some money for me. But where has he kept? I do not find. Will you please let me know how I can find out? So the astrologer, perfect astrologer is called Sarvagya. Sarvagya means he knows past, present, future. A real astrologer means he will tell you about your past life and he will tell you about your present life also and your future life also. There is a system of astrology in India which is called the Bhrigu Samhita. Any man will go, and if the expert in Bhrigu Samhita science, if he is expert in Bhrigu Samhita science, he will at once tell you what you were in the past life, how you are acting in this present life, and what is your next life. Therefore, the perfection of astrology is in the Bhrigu Samhita, and they are called Sarvagya. And in old Indian system, as soon as child is born, an expert astrologer will be called forth and there will be ceremony, Jata Karma, just after the birth. Just like before giving birth to the child, there was some ceremony which is called Garbhadan ceremony, and between the birthing ceremony and the child is born, there are two other ceremonies, Sadhavakan. So after the birth of the child, the astrologer is called forth and he begins to tell about the future of the wife. So this is from Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela lecture of Srila Prabhupada. Similarly, next one. So I will be sharing all these different angles of Srila Prabhupada's views on astrology, and then we'll also I will try to share my the way I perceive, the way I feel that what Srila Prabhupada really wanted from the devotees, and I also try to answer many questions on whether devotees should give importance to astrology or not. Because Prabhupada is not like he's just giving one opinion. Sometimes he also contradicts himself. So in one place he will say something and another place he will probably contradict that. So we need to also reconcile things. That's why I'm sharing the most important statements of Srila Prabhupada, which devotees have recorded in his books, letters, conversations, etc. Okay, so Vishal Das. Now this is from a morning walk parikrama, Vrindavan parikrama, March of 1974. Vishal Das. I was having trouble with Rahu planet for 18 years, and I think 9 or 10 more years to go. I went to an astrologer in Vrindavan and he told me to wear a yantra. So when I came to the gate to Krishna Balaram temple, who would greet me there but Brahmananda Maharaj? And he said, what are you wearing, Vishal? I said, I am wearing a yantra. I just came from an astrologer, and he said this will counteract the influence of bad stars. Brahmananda's reply was, Prabhupada says you don't have to add anything to this process. So I said, well, I want to speak with Prabhupada. So he set up a time, and then Srila Prabhupada asked me about the astrologer. He said, how much did he charge you? Who he was? And I said, Srila Prabhupada, I was wearing it because I thought it would help me to become more Krishna conscious. And Prabhupada quoted the words Sarva Dharman Parityaja. He said the whole sloka, 18.66. Prabhupada said, if you just surrender to Krishna, Krishna with a slight kick can annihilate 100,000 Rahu planets. Then I still wasn't exactly sold on it. I said, Srila Prabhupada, your spiritual master, he was a great astrologer. And Srila Prabhupada cut me off real quick. And then he said, but he did it for a short time. After that, I cut the yantra off my neck and tossed it somewhere in Vrindavan. I don't care where it is. Okay, next one. From Morning Walk, 14th of March, 1976, Mayapur. Prabhupada, natural sequence. Just like you are infected with some contaminous disease, you will suffer. There is a story that one fool was sitting on a branch of a tree and he was cutting off. And somebody said, you will fall down. Fall down. But when he fell down, he said, oh, you are a great astrologer. So who goes to the astrologer? only fools and rascals. No sane man goes. They know what it is. Yad bhavyantam tad bhavata. What is to happen, that will happen. Why shall I go to astrologer? Next one. This is from Tamal Krishna Maharaj's diary on 31st of July. Srila Prabhupada had asked us to consult an astrologer regarding whether he should travel. This afternoon, Yashodanandan Swami, Dr. Sharma and Bhakti Prem Swami each presented a report from a different astrologer. I asked each to give his report separately so that we could see how they agreed and differed. Bhakti Prem's was useless, Dr. Sharma's was fair, and Yashodanandan's seemed the most reliable. All three agreed on one point. The next 2 months would be the most difficult for Srila Prabhupada's life, and traveling was to be avoided. The astrologer Yashodanandan consulted recommended the wearing of a blue sapphire. After hearing all the reports that forecast his future, his divine grace said, "So it is not hopeless, at least for 5 weeks. Keep me very carefully. For the time being, no travel. Secure this blue sapphire and chant Hare Krishna." So you will see in this particular Prabhupada's pastime that how Prabhupada actually it seems that he contradicted himself, because earlier he was continuously saying that we don't require to go to astrologer, but he himself consulted astrologer for his health. Okay, next one. In London, Prabhupada told us that astrologers are after money and women, and that astrology is a lost art. He said his Guru Maharaj said Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Prabhupada was a great astrologer, and he gave it up. Prabhupada said, "Don't bother with astrology, just depend on Krishna." But one day Pradyumna, who was Prabhupada's Sanskrit secretary and was fond of astrology, said, "I am going to see the astrologer B.K. Gandhi. Do you want to come?" I said, "Okay." Although I know Prabhupada wouldn't want me to go. When we got back, Prabhupada said, "Where have you been?" I couldn't lie. I said, "I was with Pradyumna." "Pradyumna, doing what?" I said, "He took me to an astrologer." "Astrology, why?" "Well, Pradyumna, he said, astrologers are nonsense." "Why did you go?" "I instructed you not to go." I said, "Pradyumna asked me to go." He said, "If Pradyumna asks you to jump off the bridge, will you jump?" "No, Prabhupada. Whenever we did something that was not sanctioned, it invariably came to light." So the reference is Hamsaduta. Okay. I think this is from the Siddhanta Prabhu's diary, Srila Prabhupada Memories. Next one, which is from the Journey of Self-Discovery 7.1. Astrology can help if there is first-class astrologer. Such an astrologer can tell what line a boy is coming from and how he should be trained. Next. Soon after, okay, what is the reference? This is from Little Drops of Nectar, Srila Prabhupada Nectar, 3.48. Soon after, a godbrother showed Vishal a letter he had received from Prabhupada about the same subject matter. Astrology will not save you at the time of death. My Guru Maharaj was a great astrologer and astronomer, but he gave it all up. It is meant for the karmis. We have no interest in such things. Vilasini Devidasi interview, letter to Sanatan Das, June 3rd, 1975. Okay. Yeah, maybe there is some overlapping of the references. Anyways, next reference. One afternoon, a renowned astrologer visited Prabhupada and offered to read his palm. "No," Prabhupada replied, "I am finished with that. But you may read my disciples' palms." The astrologer read the palms of the several devotees present, made his predictions, and then left. The devotees turned to Prabhupada, wondering what to make of it. "As soon as you clap your hands in front of the deities during Aarti," Prabhupada said, smiling, "all the lines of your palm are changed." So this is from Srila Prabhupada Leela Amrit. Next reference from Tamal Krishna Maharaj, October 5th. When Srila Prabhupada was told that Hari Sauri had approached the Delhi astrologer for a more detailed report of Prabhupada's immediate future, he was not pleased. His divine grace said, "Do not pay the astrologer. It is useless. They are karmis. We don't associate with karmis." Next reference from Remembrances Siddhanta Das by Chaitanya Prabhu. So in 1975, my husband Kanupriya and went and studied astrology in London for about 6 months. When he came back, Chaitanya Mataji, sorry. When he came back, he began doing astrology charts for devotees, and he decided he should ask Srila Prabhupada's opinion about it. He said, "Prabhupada, I learned some astrology and I want to know if it's all right if I do charts for devotees." Prabhupada said, oh, you are doing astrology? So can you tell me when will be the date when we will buy our new building for the New York temple? Of course, my husband said, no, Prabhupada. Prabhupada said, that is because you have to study Hora astrology. He said, that's mathematics and it takes at least 10 years to learn it. My Guru Maharaj, Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati, was a very learned astrologer. He was the last bona fide living astrologer on this planet. He said, doing astrology chart for devotees, you can sometimes know the future. But our philosophy is, whatever will be, will be. We simply chant Hare Krishna. So best you do not do astrology charts for devotees because they will start worshipping astrology and forget about Krishna. Next reference from Lord Chaitanya play told to Tamal Krishna Maharaj, 4th of August 1969, Los Angeles. Prabhupada, astrology is a science. Krishna consciousness has nothing to do with astrology. But it is the general custom that as soon as a child is born, the astrologers come. That is the Indian system, Vedic system. Next reference from the Path of Perfection, 10th chapter. For the devotee, however, there is no question of chance. Whatever the astrological situation, the devotee in Krishna consciousness is guaranteed liberation. For others, there are chances that if they leave their body at a particular moment, they may attain liberation and enter the spiritual kingdom, or they may be reborn. So this is from Path of Perfection. Next reference, Tamal Krishna Maharaj diary, 11th of August. At this time, Abhiram returned from Delhi, where he had gone to obtain further information from the astrologer. The astrologer calculated that according to the stars at his birth, Srila Prabhupada would live for 81 years, 5 months, and 29 days. In other words, 28th of February 1978 was supposed to be the fatal date. He stressed, however, that this was true only for ordinary men, that pious and spiritual activities often prolonged life. Next reference, Pradyumna. I think this is also from Siddhanta Prabhu's Srila Prabhupada memories. Once in Hyderabad, I asked Prabhupada about astrology. I was interested in Indian astrology and was trying to understand how one's life is determined or not determined, what you can and can't read in a chart, what was there and not there spiritually. I asked Prabhupada, what about astrology? Is it part of Vaishnavism? Do we use astrology? Because Nilamba Chakravarti, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's grandfather, did an accurate chart for Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur and Bhaktivinoda Thakur also knew astrology very well. What's its validity? Prabhupada said, the Vaishnava attitude and Siddhanta is, whatever may come, may come. We don't care. But if you know it's going to rain, it's better to have an umbrella. Again, he repeated. So our philosophy is, as Maharaj Kulashekar says, whatever may come by your mercy, let it come. That's our philosophy. That's our Siddhant. But if you know it's going to rain, then it's better to take an umbrella. Next reference. So this reference is shared by one of the Matajis, and who is not a Prabhupada disciple, but I think it is given in Back to Godhead magazine or somewhere else. I don't remember exactly, but this is described by Mohini Radha Devi Dasi, and but this is in connection with the Chaitanya Charitamrita Madhya Leela, where and I will be sharing the verse also, so I will just read it now. Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained to Sanatana Goswami that the astrologer represents Vedic literature, which is meant to guide people towards the ultimate treasure of love of Godhead. Just as the astrologer's good news solved the poor man's problems, the Vedic scriptures can solve our greatest problem, our spiritual poverty, the cause of our suffering in the temporary material world. The Vedic scriptures and their representatives, the pure devotees, advise us to take to the path of Krishna consciousness so that we can re-establish our relationship with our spiritual father, the supreme personality of God, Shri Krishna. Just as the astrologer's words establish the poor man's connection with this hidden treasure, the Vedic scriptures establish our connection with Krishna, the supreme treasure. So this was said in the reference of CC Madhya Leela, 20th chapter, and I think it begins from verse number 125 till 130. So we have just shared verse number 130. Sarvagyera Vakya Mula Dhana Anubandha Sarva Shastra Upadesha Shri Krishna Sambandha. So synonyms: Sarvagnera of the astrologer, Vakya by the assurance, Muldhan with the treasure, Anubandha connection, Sarva Shastra, all Vedic literatures, Upadesh, instruct, Sri Krishna, Lord Sri Krishna, the Supreme Person of Godhead, Samban, the central connection. Translation, by the words of the astrologers, by the word of the astrologer, the poor man's connection with the treasure was established. Similarly, the Vedic literature advises us that our real connection is with Sri Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Hare Krishna. Okay, so I have collected all the major references from Srila Prabhupada's teachings, and I've shared it with you all. Now I'll be sharing my, whatever I've heard from our Gurujan, from our Acharyas, from the Parampara. In one sense, I think I would not say that this is my absolute opinion, because Krishna consciousness is full of variety. But I think there are certain principles which should be absolute for all the devotees, and we should not compromise on that. So irrespective of whether a devotee would like to go to astrologer or not, that's their own choice. It's a relative consideration. But there are certain things that we should, I think, as devotees, we should give priority, and we should also focus on that. Okay, so first and foremost, see, from all these references, you can clearly understand one thing, that Srila Prabhupada appreciate astrology as a bona fide science. And he also praised astrologers, some of the astrologers. Although in one particular reference, Prabhupada did say that Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur is the last bona fide astrologer living in this planet. But when Prabhupada himself actually took guidance of astrologers, specifically, now Prabhupada, I have not come across any reference where Prabhupada kept on taking reference of guidance of astrologers, and to check with them whether it's a good time to start something or good time to do something. I have not come across so many references. Whatever references I've come across, I've shared with you. So one thing, what I see is that Prabhupada, when it was about his health, that time he took some insights from the astrologers. And that too, I think, during the last years of Prabhupada's pastime in this material world. But earlier, I don't see Prabhupada taking so much, or he's giving so much importance to the astrologers. I guess when his health was really deteriorated, that time he was like concerned, and then he started taking help of the astrologers. So see, there are references of Prabhupada's pastimes where he is directly in touch with Krishna also. Like Krishna is dictating each and every word to Prabhupada, for his books. And then Prabhupada also is in touch with Krishna in terms of communication. Because for a pure devotee, Nitya Siddha, those who are in the stage of Bhava and Prema, they are directly communicating with Krishna from within. So there is no question of Prabhupada not being in touch with Krishna. So there are many references like that. And there are some references where Prabhupada is also acting as a Sarvagya. Sarvagya means like an astrologer, where he is advising some disciple not to do this, and if you do this, then this will happen. So that happens later on. So Prabhupada is revealing his different aspect of his personality. Okay. Although majorly, you can say that almost like 90% Prabhupada does not reveal his siddhis, or being, like a direct representative of Krishna coming from spiritual world. He's behaving, acting like a normal, ordinary guru, right? Obviously very empowered, we know that, but like a ordinary guru. So many times Prabhupada, when you ask him, he does not know things, and he forgets also. So these are different traits of Prabhupada's personalities. So Prabhupada here took the help of astrologers during his final pastime on this earth, especially in connection with his health. Okay, but I don't see he's taking his the astrologers' guidance or their opinion on different aspects of services or related to Krishna consciousness. One thing we consistently see is Prabhupada advising devotees not to go to the astrologers repeatedly. Or so in one particular reference that we read and I shared is that Prabhupada did mention that do not emphasize so much on astrology, because then devotees will start worshipping astrology and then they will forget Krishna. So Prabhupada was very concerned about devotees' faith, because what can happen is if we place a lot of emphasis and importance on astrology, then we may forget the goal, which is Krishna consciousness, and then we give astrology so much importance that that becomes the society for astrology consciousness, right? So Prabhupada didn't want that to happen for sure. So we have to also see the intention why Prabhupada is saying certain things. So in certain cases, Prabhupada appreciated astrologers, current astrologers during his time, not that, after Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur's disappearance, he said that there are no bona fide astrologers. He did appreciate. In fact, there are certain references which I have not shared here, but these are all like the same type of references where Prabhupada is taking the opinion of some astrologers about his health, and he's appreciating their knowledge of the subject as well as their purity. So one thing is for sure, that Prabhupada did appreciate astrologers, and he did appreciate the use of astrology. But I think he was very specific about certain things, about especially in context with astrology in terms of health. So he did not use it for everything. Okay. So this is the point, that if devotees, they would like to, Prabhupada in one of the reference, which is a very popular reference about astrology, that Prabhupada said that if you know that it's going to rain, then better you carry umbrella with you. So in that sense, astrology can be helpful. If you know, if you would like to, if you are in a very complex situation and you are unable to get any guidance, and you think that astrology can help you in this area, then maybe you can go to astrologer, you can consult. But the problem is that even if you go to astrologer, you cannot, you will not even have that full faith in that astrologer, because unless and until you go to 3-4 astrologers, you will not even have that kind of faith, because this is our conditioning in the material world. Whatever we are doing in the material world, we are always doubting, right? So that's why even devotees, when they consult astrologers, they make sure that they are consulting 3 to 4 astrologers, and then they try to find out if majority of the astrologers, they are saying the same thing. Then it gives some kind of faith to us. Or it is also a matter of experimentation. If you have heard about a very popular, renowned astrologer, and you have heard that he's almost 99% accurate or 95% accurate, then you may just experiment with what he says, and then it may become true after some time. So it all depends on devotees, I think, situation, the context they are in, and if they go and consult astrologer, that is okay. But the foremost thing is, which Srila Prabhupada also emphasized here, is that Krishna consciousness should never be compromised, right? So see, there are astrologers, if you go to astrologers, if there is a problem that you are facing, then they may come up with some solution, and they may ask you to worship demigods. They may ask you to wear certain gems. Now, in this particular reference, Prabhupada also, he said that go and get the blue sapphire, because that blue sapphire can actually help relieve the suffering, or it can bring down the deterioration of the health. So in that case, if some things like that can work out very easily, then yeah, we can do that. But I would say that as far as it does not hamper our Krishna consciousness, it should not influence our Krishna consciousness to a degree where we start decreasing our sadhana. See, for a devotee, the most important factor is sadhana seva. Health is definitely the first and foremost priority, but sadhana and seva is the most important. So there is a question of whether we should worship the demigods, which are recommended by the astrologers. Should we spend a lot of time? Because it is not that they will give you a medicine. See, it is not similar to a doctor. Doctor will give you a medicine. You take that medicine. You don't have to do any sadhana for that, right? You just have to take the sadhana, take the medicine, and then you will be cured. So sometimes the astrologers, they give comparison of the doctor, but I feel it is not the right, correct example. If you take some medication and if you are getting cured from that, it's a physical thing. First of all, it is not related to any mental thing. So when you talk about worshipping demigods, first and foremost is that whether you have faith in demigods, and whether it is really required to worship the demigods, because Prabhupada said, or our entire Krishna conscious philosophy is that Krishna is the root of everyone. He is the root of the tree. And if you water the root of the tree, then each the branches, the leaves, the plants, and the flowers, the leaves, and everything is going to be nourished, right? So there has to be certain limit as far as worshipping demigods. and also having faith in the demigods. So I believe that if you go to astrologer and if they are recommending you to worship a particular demigod, or and they like for example they ask you to chant mantras for Shanidev, and that is like half an hour every day. I think that kind of suggestion, personally for me, that is something which is I may not give so much importance, because although see they first of all, why do they give suggestion to worship particular demigods? Because they feel that if you chant the mantras, if you appease them, then they will relieve your suffering, right? So that means maybe we have offended those demigods, or maybe because of our karma, the demigods, they are probably not pleased with our attitude or our behavior or our life, you know. So it means that we have to appease the demigod, and so appeasement can be done in other, by through other ways and forms also. For example, I can continue to do my sadhana, but I can also, in my mind, within my mind, every day, I can pray to Lord Shani, and beg for forgiveness if I have done some aparadh, or I have committed some sinful activity, or I have done something wrong. And if Shani Dev is not pleased with that activity, then I can beg for forgiveness, and I can, in my mind, I can pray that, you are like one of the representatives of the Supreme Lord, and so I beg forgiveness from you, and kindly destroy the obstacles on my path. Kindly remove the obstacles. Because I would like to serve Krishna, and I would like to make sure that there are no obstacles. So, being the servant of Krishna, I am asking you to kindly bless me with this ability, and also remove obstacles in the path and relieve the suffering, or relieve whatever challenges are there in the service to the Lord, right? Because devotees should always be concerned about serving the Lord in all situations. That's the foundational principle for all the devotees. Whether you go to astrologer or not, but we should always remember one thing, that we should never compromise on our Krishna consciousness. So see, the problem is that, first of all, Grihastha devotees don't have so much time in their day-to-day Krishna conscious activities, or in their service to their family, because they are working outside, they are doing jobs, or they are doing business. So they will not get so much time. And if you start worshipping a particular demigod for good amount of time, then maybe what you are doing is you are replacing that time with your reading of Srila Prabhupada's books, or your other form of sadhana, maybe your shravanam, your reading the scriptures, reading and hearing about the Lord, right? So you may replace that activity with this activity. That is not, I would suggest that should not happen. So we should always continue our sadhana, irrespective of whatever suffering that are coming in our lives. And I will also share something about karma, because I think it is very important for devotees to understand the nature of karma, the nature of the Supreme Lord in the context of karma. So we get bewildered because we suffer in our lives. Devotees also suffer. It is not an easy process. See, Srila Prabhupada said that chant Hare Krishna and be happy. But we see that most of the devotees are miserable in their normal day-to-day activities, in spite of being spiritual, right? So there will be distractions, there will be distresses for our devotees, but then we should know the cause for these distresses. And we should understand why these are given to us, right? So that we'll cover later on. But coming back to the point is that if you are regularly reading, hearing about Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, or anything connected with Krishna consciousness, or doing service, that should never be replaced. So we should remember this thing. We should never replace that sadhana or seva. For the devotees, this is the life and soul. This is what Srila Prabhupada was mainly concerned about. So they should not, so that's why Srila Prabhupada never wanted that we should start worshipping astrology, which means that we should, our faith should not be deviated from Krishna consciousness to astrology consciousness, which means that whatever the astrologers are telling us, then we'll start following the astrologers. We will think that the astrologers are our ultimate authority, and we'll start going to them more frequently, and we'll replace their we replace the worship of our Guru or the instructions of Guru with their instructions, right? So that should never happen. This is, in one sense, it will become an offense to the process of bhakti if we start deviating and if we start shifting our faith from Krishna consciousness to astrology consciousness. Okay, so this is what we should be careful about. So see, now there are some devotees who are probably astrologers by profession. So that's a different context. That's a different thing. So they will have to spend time studying, understanding, because then only they will be able to consult other devotees or other people, right? So they can spend time in that because it's a profession. But devotees who as a hobby, if they are learning astrology, then they should make sure one thing, that they should never replace their study of scriptures and Shravanam with astrology. Okay, because one thing, it is very clear, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu also very clearly stated to Sanatana Goswami that who is astrologer for a devotee? That astrologer for a devotee is the Vedic scripture, because the Vedic scripture is actually informing the lost person, the lost soul. The scripture is actually bringing back the lost soul, and he's connecting the lost soul with his father. So in one sense, it is also taking the role of an astrologer. So the scriptures, the Guru, the Sadhu, and the Shastra, they are all acting as astrologers for a devotee. And what is the goal the Guru, Sadhu, Shastra is giving? They are giving us Krishna Prema, whereas astrologer can minimize your suffering, but it is temporary. The astrologer can minimize by giving you advice. The astrology can minimize your karma, and it can change your karma, right? But it cannot free you from karma altogether, because even if, in spite of all the relief that you are getting from the astrology, you will keep creating karma for yourself, and unless and until you take to the process of bhakti, right? So that we have to understand. The astrologer is actually the real astrology for the devotee is Guru, Sadhu, Shastra, because their words are always in line with the parampara, always in line with Krishna's desire. And if we please Krishna, then we'll please everyone, right? So this is very important. And regarding another point regarding worshipping of demigods. So instead of worshipping demigods, I think it can be replaced with the worship of our avatars. So let me share the screen, and I will also, yeah, so I hope you are able to see the screen. So see, generally we worship different demigods for appeasing these planets, but all these avatars of the Lord, they also preside, they also govern all these planets. Ultimately, the law of karma is above these demigods, because the law of karma is our, it is designed in such a way that everyone is acting under karma. Even the demigods, they are also under the influence of karma. So they are not free from karma. And the law of karma is ultimately directed by the Supreme Lord. So if you replace the demigod worship with the avatars of the Lord, the sun is actually ruled by Lord Ramchandra. Moon is by Krishna. As we know that Ram appeared in the dynasty of the sun and Krishna appeared in the dynasty of moon. So Narasimha is the ruling personality of Mars planet, of Mangal. Then Mercury, Buddha, Venus, Parshuram, Jupiter, Vamana, Saturn, Kurma, Rahu, Vara, and Ketu, Meena. So see, if we are worshipping all these avatars of the Lord, and anyways we are doing that, right? Because in Vaishnava culture, we have been given all these avatars, Vishnu forms, and we have been asked to worship them. So if you are doing this, we don't have to bother so much about demigod worship or to start a separate sadhana process altogether. So it may be temporary also. Like for example, you are asked to chant the mantra of some particular demigod for 1 month or 45 days or 2 months, like that. But still, that is, see, it should not replace your service to Krishna. Then you are giving more priority to the astrology than to the service of Lord, right? So that is most important. And although it may relieve you for certain things, but we have to also see it through the eyes of Guru Sadhu Shastra. So Srila Prabhupada, the Acharyas, they never asked us and they never said that it is absolutely fine if you worship the demigods for becoming more Krishna conscious. As Prabhupada, we have already seen this reference where one of the Prabhupada disciple is asking Prabhupada, so like I would like to become more Krishna conscious. So can I wear this yantra? And Prabhupada denied that, right? So for the disciples, I think it is very important to follow what Prabhupada said, the standard that Prabhupada has given us. And in Krishna consciousness, if you want to get taste, if you want to advance spiritually, then it is extremely important to not just chant the holy name 16 rounds every day, but to also hear and read the scriptures regularly if you want taste. Because the acharyas, they have given a lot of nectar to us. If you read it regularly, in spite of outside challenges, obstacles, distresses, circumstances, you'll always be satisfied in the heart and you will feel bliss in the heart because you are in touch with the transcendental subject matter. So Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya is very important. If you are doing seva to Vaishnavas, if you are doing sadhana almost every day, then all these external obstacles, you will be able to deal with it with a smiling face. So this is very important for all the devotees. Okay, and we should not be bothered so much about karma. And this is what Prabhupada also spoke about very strongly, that devotees, they should not be concerned about karma, because the goal of devotee is not to get rid of karma. The goal of devotees is to please Krishna. And in the process, if we are facing obstacles, then, anyways, bhakti, the byproduct of bhakti is to destroy karma. That's why Rupa Goswami also in the Nectar of Devotion, in the Bhakti Samrit Sindhu, he clearly mentions what to speak of bhava and prema at the beginning stage itself, the stage of sadhana bhakti. So there are, the entire process is in three parts. It is divided in three forms. One is sadhana bhakti, bhava bhakti, and prem bhakti. So Rupa Goswami very clearly states that kleshagni, okay, and shubhada, these two processes, it will happen right at the stage of sadhana bhakti. What to speak of attaining bhava and prema. So kleshagni means destruction of all the sins, destruction of all the impious activities, destruction of the reactions to all these karmas. And shubhada, because all the reaction to sinful activities have been destroyed. So it is natural that you will feel happiness and bliss in Krishna consciousness. So this is a byproduct of bhakti. It's an insignificant result product of bhakti. Liberation is also insignificant in comparison to bhakti. So bhakti can liberate us from all karmas very easily, very soon. But the only condition is that we should not offend the holy name or the devotees. If you offend, then the process will actually, it will be a very slow process. It won't be a quick process. But if we do not commit aparadhs, for example, in our last class, which was, I think, long time back, I think after a long time we are having this session, because the last class was, I think, on 1st of May, and this is almost end of June. So almost like 2 months of gap. So anyways, in that particular class, I did mention about the Ajamil's pastime, where it was mentioned that Ajamil only had 2 stages. He did not have to go anartha nivriti. So he did not undergo sadhu sang bhajan kriya, anartha nivriti, nichcha ruchi asakti bhav prem. For him, only 2 stages were there, Shraddha and Prema. He chanted the holy name and later on he attained Prema, right? And then we went back to Godhead. So for devotees also, it can become a 2-stage process if we do not commit any aparadhs, and very soon we can get rid of anartha nivriti, of the anarthas. Okay. So we should have the faith that bhakti by itself, the process of bhakti, the angas of bhakti, each and every anga is so powerful, is so potent. Just by following that one particular anga of bhakti, all karmas can be destroyed. But that process should be followed without any offenses. Another important point is that guru, the definition of guru. So we have also, like, if you remember the earlier classes that we started, it was, I think we started with understanding Guru Tattva. And I think I took 3 or 4 classes. So in one of the classes, I did mention one point, which is very important for all the devotees to understand, that Guru, one of the definitions of Guru is heavy with knowledge. So what is the meaning of heavy with knowledge? Heavy with knowledge means knowledge of the scriptures and he is realized in the conclusion, the essence of scriptures, and he is presenting that knowledge. And why heavy? So heavy means it is mentioned that if there are thousands of people who are advising you, and if they are weighed on one scale, one side of the scale, and if there is only one person who is your guru, and he is weighed on the other side of the scale, then his weight is going to be much more heavier than all the 1,000 people combined on the other side of the scale. So what does that mean? It means that whatever your guru says, whatever advice he gives from Guru Sadhu Sastra, that is much more heavy than the opinion of thousands of people combined together. So we as devotees should be very faithful. We should be loyal to our guru, and we should always think that whatever guru is saying, that is the ultimate authority for us. No matter hundreds and millions of people, whatever they would like to say, let them say. But for us, guru's word is the final word, right? So this is how a disciple will advance in spiritual life. Yasya deve para bhakti yata deve tatha guru. Yasya te kathayate artha prakashante mahatmana. Unless and until we have implicit faith in Guru and Krishna, the purpose of the Vedas will not be revealed to us, right? So this is very important. So devotees, they should cultivate their faith towards Guru, loyalty towards Guru. The astrology may say something, and the Guru may contradict that thing. So in that situation, we must always be loyal to our Guru. We should always follow the instruction of Guru, because Guru is the representative of Krishna. When you are saying that Guru is saying something and you go against that, it means you are going against Krishna. And you should remember one thing: astrology is a temporary effect. So let me give one example. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur, if you remember, he came across one very powerful yogi. So that yogi had so much potency that he was able to affect Bhaktivinoda Thakur also. He was able to affect his health to the extent that he was going to die, almost in the verge of death. Bhaktivinoda Thakur was in such a, his health deteriorated like anything because of the influence of the yogi power. Now, Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a Nitya Siddha. He has Krishna's potency also. But for the timing, the potency was not acting because Krishna had some other plan for him. So here in this particular, pastime, we can see that the yogi was able to influence Bhaktivinoda Thakur, and he was able to influence his health. But Bhaktivinoda Thakur did not even fudge for a moment in his faith to the Lord. So, in one sense, Krishna purifies his neophyte devotees and he glorifies his pure devotees, right? So Bhaktivinoda Thakur is a pure devotee. So he wanted to glorify Bhaktivinoda Thakur, showcasing that in spite of such a severe health deterioration, Bhaktivinoda Thakur has faith in me. So then at the last moment, Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he went to the prison house and then he cut off the yogi's hair. And then as soon as the yogi's hair was cut, he was able to, the yogi immediately collapsed, because everyone realized that whatever power the yogi had, it was all in his hair. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur had this realization from within, and so he cut down his hair and then he immediately died. So Bhaktivinoda Thakur ultimately won, right? So this is how the Lord is going to test the devotees. And Bhakti Siddhanta Thakur also says that for a devotee, it is not so easy. A devotee's path is always led by thorns, and the devotee is supposed to take the test, right? So it is in the path of bhakti, will have a lot of challenges, will be tested many times. So if we have good faith, strong faith in our Guru Sadhu Shastra, then we'll overcome that. And that faith can only come when we spend good amount of time in association of devotees, in also doing Shravanam and Kirtanam. At the same time, also read the scriptures. So we need to give time for all these activities. Then only we'll be able to overcome the influence of our karma. Right? Yeah, so there is, while following the process of bhakti, we can destroy the karmas easily, but we should be careful of the offenses to the holy name. If we can do it, then karmas will be destroyed very quickly. And apparently it may seem that we are doing karma, but the karmas will not have any effect. So it will be a semblance of karma which is continuing for a devotee, right? Provided as long as we are not committing offenses. So wearing gems, stones, these things are okay as long as it does not influence our faith in the Lord, and it also does not affect our Vaishnava attire. So, because we also have attire, Vaishnavas, we are wearing dhoti kurta, we are also putting tilaks at different places in our body. And in fact, we have, maybe we probably have faith in the gems and the stones that the astrologer is going to recommend us. But are we having faith that we are having tilak marks on our body at different places? And those tilak marks they are actually the abode of the Supreme Lord. And if you have those tilak marks, then also so many bad influences, negative influences, they are all destroyed. So the Lord is protecting us in many possible ways. Prabhupada has given us, the acharyas, they have given us everything. The entire package they have given us. We don't have to bother about anything else. So it is very important for devotees to go deep in their Krishna consciousness. Then we can overcome the influence of all these things. And even if the suffering is coming, then we should see it from a different angle. As being devotees, we should see it as something which is coming from the Lord. And that's why Vishwanath Thakur very clearly states that for a devotee, practically there is no suffering, which means that it is not coming from karma. It is basically coming from the Lord. And there are two reasons why the suffering is coming. Because the Lord wants to purify us. He wants to test us. He wants to purify us. And he wants to make devotees responsible for their activities. See, being devotee does not mean that you take it for granted that, okay, like just because I have connection with the Prime Minister, so now I can do whatever I want to do, right? So that kind of attitude is condemned. In fact, Krishna very clearly says that unless and until a devotee is free from all the sinful reactions, sinful activities, he can't even advance spiritually. So committing sinful activities for a devotee is very condemnable. And Krishna can forget that a couple of times, but he will not allow it to happen repeatedly for a devotee. So he wants to make sure that we are responsible in our behavior and activities, and we deal with Vaishnavas very nicely. So for this reason, aparadh is there. And once we commit aparadh, we get some negative reaction, which means we'll get some suffering, we get some distress. So we'll have to analyze that where are we committing aparadh, what is wrong in our attitude, and we should rectify that. If we do it with a repentance mood and a humble attitude, then we'll be able to overcome the influence of karma. Right? So Srila Vishwanath Thakur says very clearly that even if the devotees are committing aparadh while practicing the path of bhakti, because it is not so easy to give up aparadhs so easily, right? It is difficult, so it can take some time. But even if devotees are committing aparadh, and that is obviously not intentional, if they commit aparadh unintentionally, then even if they are committing aparadhs just because they are following the process of sadhana bhakti, they will never go to hell after death, because we are trying to follow the path of bhakti. So then he also quotes Praman from the Srimad Bhagavatam and Padma Puran. So the devotees will never go to hell, even because there are three stages. There is Namaprad, there is Namabhas, and there is Shuddham. So for devotees, even if we are at the Namaprad stage, but we should not worry about going to hell, right? Obviously, because Yamaraj is also a devotee of the Lord, and he's also connected to Yamuna, the river Yamuna, and who is like a pure devotee, who's expansion of Vishaka, Sakhi. So that's why Yamaraj is very merciful to devotees. And in the Bhagavatam itself, in the pastime of Ajamil, Yamaraj has very clearly stated that don't bring me the devotees of the Lord. Okay, he's very clearly instructed the Yamunas, don't bring me the devotees of the Lord. So you can only bring me those persons who are averse to the Lord, who are, they do not want to practice bhakti. So only those people you bring me. Yeah, so now coming to the one of the most important questions that devotees have. Should we match horoscopes? Right? So as I shared earlier, that it is all depending on the devotee's circumstances, and it's a relative consideration. If you want to match horoscope, you can. Nothing wrong in that. But again, you should not compromise these things. And another fact, that the fact of the matter in matching horoscope is that just like, when we personally go to astrologer and we try to get insights on our future lives, and many times it happens that it does not come out true. So similarly, when we match horoscope, I have personally heard so many devotee cases who have matched horoscope. The horoscopes matched very intimately, very closely, but later on they have got divorced, and they had a lot of problems. And maybe it is also true that the devotees, they have matched horoscopes, and it matched nicely, and they have good married lives after that. So there is a lot of contradiction, and especially like His Holiness Radha Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Gopal Krishna Goswami Maharaj, they do not give so much emphasis on matching of horoscopes. Maybe there's some other gurus and sannyasis, they probably give, which is okay. But again, I think the responsibility is ultimately on the devotees, how they are going to behave, how they are going to deal, how they are going to understand each other. That all depends on them. So it can give some indication, basic indication of our natures, of our compatibility. But as Prabhupada stated, that there are not so many bona fide astrologers on this planet now. So that's why devotees also, they are taking consultation from 3 or 4 different astrologers, and then they are coming to some conclusion. There is one particular example of a devotee couple, and so this couple, they, before getting married, they liked each other, and they had also the blessings of their Guru Maharaj. They had both had the same Guru. So some astrologers, they told this couple that if you get married, one of the astrologers, in fact, he said that if you get married, then one of you will die. So they were very concerned about it. But then one senior devotee, so he just advised them that if your Guru has given you blessings, and if you both like each other, and it's a good compatibility, then there is a solution to this. He said that in the scripture it is mentioned, if we perform the marriage ceremony in one of the dhams, then the effect of the dham will actually nullify that reaction of your karma. If you get together, and if the astrology chart says that one of you is going to die, but if you get married in the dham, that will nullify that reaction. So somehow they took the chance, they took that risk, because they had the blessings of their Guru Maharaj, and they thought that, okay, let us give it a try. So they did that, and they have, I think, they are quite successful in their marriage now. It's been more than 10 years probably. And the astrologer who predicted that one of you is going to die, that astrologer died immediately after their marriage. So you never know, what is going to happen. Krishna is under control. For devotees, Krishna is also. So for sincere devotees, those who really want to make advancement, Krishna is the one who is actually going to interfere in their lives, and he's going to change things. So Prabhupada, that's why he's stressed so much about having faith in Krishna, and insisting devotees not to go to astrologers, because it should not become a habit for the devotees. They should not start relying more on astrology than on the guidance of Guru, the blessings of Guru. So for the devotees, blessings of Guru, the words of Guru, they are the most authoritative, and it is the primary. Everything else is secondary for the devotees, right? So you may go to the astrologers for horoscope matching, but then finally you have to be detached also. So if your Guru, I think it's a matter of compatibility also. A Guru, if he is not so sure about compatibility, he will not interfere in that decision. But I think the most important element in a marriage is the compatibility. If you think the compatibility is good, then maybe you can take the chance. And especially if both of the spouse are devotees, then maybe the Guru can also bless. So yeah, so it also depends on the purity of the astrologer. One second. Okay. So our faith should be steady, and gradually we should become more dependent on the Lord and Guru Sastra. Okay. Yeah. All right. So with this, I would like to end the class. Now let's take some questions and comments if there are any.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, Danda Pranam, always to Srila Prabhupada. Regarding one is that how does one bypass certain steps in the how does one bypass few of the steps and that you are referring? And second is like how can the see, karma can only be taken by Krishna or Vishnu Tattvas, right? So is it because these grahas are presided over by those Vishnu Tattvas that the karma is eliminated through those Vishnu Tattvas? Is it the medium?
Okay. So see, the demigods, they have certain potency, and that potency is that they are able to give the award of our karmas. Okay. And that potency has been given by the Lord. So they can do it. The demigods can also change our karma. They can influence our karma. But that is only by the power, the potency which is bestowed to them by the Supreme Lord. So ultimately, I mean, it's a, like for example, the Prime Minister is going to give the power of attorney to one of his representatives. So if he is sending some representative to a particular country, then he's got the same kind of power because he's representing the Prime Minister. So that way, the power of attorney is there with the demigods, but that is definitely given by the Lord. So ultimately, the Lord is the supreme controller.
Okay, Babu. And that I mean, skipping few steps in the.
Okay, yeah. See, as I said earlier, that Ajamil was able to. He had only 2 stages because he did not commit any aparats to the holy name, not to the devotees also. So, if you don't have any aparad, and if you are fully surrendered to the Lord, fully surrendered to the Guru, then you will also have 2 stages, Shraddha and Prema. Like Khatwang Maharaj is another example. Just for a moment, he became completely Krishna conscious, and then he went back to Godhead. See, because the name of the Lord does not depend on anything. It does not depend on Guru. It does not depend on initiation. It does not depend on any external circumstance. The name can directly give you Krishna Prem, but provided you chant with Sambandh Gyan and without offenses, then it is Shuddhanam. So Shuddhanam does not depend on any factors.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so irrespective of, and it does not depend on association of devotees also. Does not depend on Guru also, does not depend on Diksha also. Name can take you back to Godhead if you chant purely. Right? But to chant purely, it's a big thing for us because we have sinful tendencies, we commit aparads. So it takes a longer time for us to come to the state of pure chanting. And that's why we are recommended to chant in terms of quantity every day. We don't have to chant number of rounds every day, right? Just by chanting one syllable purely, we can attain the feet of the Lord. But because we are committing aparads in our regular activities, that's why we have to constantly chant the holy name. So some fixed number we have to chant regularly.
So can I say that if somebody is already in a Satagun or he is Brahma Bhuta already, like the 4 Kumaras. Okay, 4 Kumaras may be out of our calculation, but even if somebody is in a Satagun, only his Shraddha part is missing. For example, real Brahmavadis, they are Satagun Sthita. They are positioned in the Satagun, or even Suddha Sattva also, some of them. So their only Shraddha part is missing. So they are all the anarthas are cleaned out. Only the little ahankar is there, because Satagun is characterized by ahankar. So once the Shraddha comes, that ahankar goes away, immediately all these other steps are basically become superfluous, because already he has the quality for all of them. So he straight away goes to Shraddha. I mean, the Prema. Is that another? I mean, can that be?
No. So see, first and foremost, bhakti is independent of the gunas. It is beyond gunas. So even someone in the sattva gun stage, if he is not worshipping the Lord, if he does not attain prema, see, there has to be affection for the Lord. There has to be love for the Lord. Then only a person can go back to Godhead. If a Ajamil, he chanted the name of the Lord indirectly, that means he had no understanding about the selfless devotion to the Lord. He was primarily a karmi, okay, and then he performed bhakti secondarily. So he got the result, but he did not attain the Supreme Lord in the beginning. When the Vishnudut came to rescue Ajamil, he was protected by them, but he did not attain Vaikuntha, right? So after that, he realized the importance of loving devotion to the Lord. Then he started performing sadhana bhakti, and then he attained the goal, prema. Then he went back to Godhead. So just by being at the state of sattva gun, it doesn't mean that one will go back to Godhead. And it also means that you require knowledge in that sattva gun stage. So, which means that you should know that I'm eternally servant of Krishna. My responsibility is to love and serve Krishna. And you should practice, you should perform obide to attain that goal. Then only you will be able to chant purely. So that's why, even if it is said that those who chant the holy name, whatever one remembers at the time of death, one will attain that stage. It does not mean that someone chants the holy name and they will go back to Godhead. No. An impersonalist or a Mayavadi can chant the holy name. So does he go back to Godhead? No, because the motive, his intention itself is to become God. So how can he go back to God and serve the Lord? He does not want to serve the Lord. So even if the Mayavadi is chanting the name and if he dies, he's not going to go back to Godhead. He will attain a good position, a better position in the next life. And it is possible that because of the chanting, he may attain some sukriti. So he may become a devotee also in the next life. But in order to go back to Godhead, one has to have some love for the Lord, right? Prema for the Lord. Then only one can go. So that prema can only come when you have a very strong realization that I am a servant of Lord and I'm fully dedicated, I'm surrendered to the Lord. I'm willing to sacrifice anything for the Lord. So that happened with Khatwang Maharaj. For some moment, he had this realization, very strong realization. So he went immediately back to Godhead in few moments. But for the devotees, for us sadhakas, we are not even able to get detached from so many distractions, so many attachments that we have. And we don't want to give up. We don't want to surrender to the Lord. We have so many attachment conditionings, right? That's why it's a longer process for us. So if we are willing to surrender to the Lord immediately, sacrifice everything 24 hours in the service of God, then we are ready for going back to Godhead. So that moment, if we chant the name with the knowledge that we are all servants of the Lord and we are meant to serve him, then we can go back to Godhead. So consciousness is very important. The bhav is also very important.
Yeah. That
See, one more thing, one more example of Putna. So it is stated that Putna went back to Godhead. Krishna was so merciful that he sent Putna to his own abode in Goloka. But did Putna attain? So we say that she attained the position of a nurse. But actually, even after attaining the position of nurse, she could not experience bliss of that of serving the Lord, because her intention was to kill Krishna. And when you want to kill the Lord, so that bhav, because of that kind of negative emotion, she attained the bliss of Brahmananda, which is same as merging with Krishna. So she did not attain the position of the servant of the Lord as being a dasya in dasya ras, or in being vatsala ras with the Lord. She did not attain that. She did not attain any ras with the Lord. She attained Brahmananda bliss, which means kind of Shantaras, which is very, the intensity of prema is very low, right? So that was the position of Putna. And so similarly, the demons who were killed by the Lord, they all did not attain the same destination. So it is, Srila Prabhupada writes in one purport in the Bhagavatam that the armies, they were there in the Kaurava side, and Krishna was on the opposite side. He was on the side of Pandavas. So Krishna had glanced over the army of Kauravas. All those whom Krishna saw, Krishna glanced, they all attain liberation. But what kind of liberation? Different people attain different types of liberation. So Krishna, when he glanced at someone, if that person appreciated the Lord's form, and if their heart transformed, then those kind of people on the Kaurava side, they went to Vaikuntha. But those whose heart were not transformed and they felt envy for the Lord, and they did not have any good feeling for the Lord, they attained Sayuja Mukti. So consciousness is very important. Whatever at the time of death, or whatever in our lifetime, the kind of mentality and attitude we are developing towards the Lord, that is going to take us to the next destination. Not just thinking of the Lord or chanting his holy name. Right? So these things are very important.
Yes, thank you. Correct.
Okay, any other question, comments?
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, pranam to you. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Guru Maharaj ki jai. Thank you so much for taking up this class, as we always had this doubt about astrology, how much to give weightage. And today you told us. And in most of the readings that you mentioned, it seems that Prabhupada is focusing the practitioner to, go towards Krishna. Like you said, just clap your hands in front of the deities, so many times, because I think, and like you said, sometimes he mentioned about following astrology also. Like, I think Prabhupada was like a mind reader. So he knew that if the person is, kind of too much into materialistic life and he's not keeping Krishna in the center, then he would give straight away say, follow Krishna consciousness. So, like, I mean, even Prabhupada doing some kind of a contradiction is good. Because, and then, but if, like we say, like some people they have a lot of money, opulence, everything, right? And they're devotees. But then Krishna knows that, just like Prabhupada, Krishna knows that, I can make them in charge, although nothing belongs to us, because the person will not be diverted. And with some people, like, there's a very famous saying that, why the devotees of Lord Shiva are opulent, and why the devotees of Krishna are, not so opulent. So opulent in the sense wealth-wise, but then Krishna knows they will be diverted. We have a father who's our true well-wisher. So in that sense, these thoughts were coming to me when you were speaking in your class. And and of course you mentioned about reading, hearing is very important. But thank you so much for the wonderful class. And yes, some of the Matajis I know, like they're devotees, and sometimes they will say, like, we have a son who's in 30s, and we're looking for a girl, but they will get into it and then they'll get out of it. It's not, we don't want to see the horoscope. If the boy and girl get together, they both are devotees, that's, the main thing, like that. And I really like that point about marriage in dham is very, very important, because that, it has an effect.
Counteract the influence.
Very nice, very nice. Yeah, because dham belongs to Krishna. And because I know one such devotee couple, they were both here, and luckily they were able to travel. Sometimes, with paperwork you can't travel, and they especially went. They were studying here, both of them. Both of them devotees. They went to Mayapur to have their wedding done. So I was asking, why are you going there? There are so many temples here, Srila Prabhupada's temples. But they said, no, it's different, So now I got the answer today from your class.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank
Yeah.
thank you, Mataji, for sharing nice analogies. You talked about
Yeah.
give the example of the opulence for devotees.
Yeah, just like Krishna, I mean, just like Prabhupada, there are so many people who would say that. Prabhupada was a mind reader. He could understand what is the person's mind. And
Yeah.
similarly, Krishna is there in our heart. And, I was hearing a very interesting this thing about one of the acharyas. He was, just it came on top of my head. He was in a particular room chanting. I mean, these are not transcendental level, He was chanting in the room and, staying there. I think it is Gaur Kishore Babaji. And what happened is that there's so many things we don't know, we've not heard. So then then one of our acharyas, he left the room. So there were some other people who came. They said, we can hear the chanting going on. The walls in the room had imbibed the chanting of the Guru. So, our Guru Maharajas, Srila Prabhupada, Krishna, when we hear all these things, then, wo Hindi mein kehte hain, astrology phika pad jata hai. There's so much observed in the chanting of the holy name and so much connected to Krishna purely, that all these things are, although I know that even Srila Prabhupada's father, he in his astrology, it was written that he will go all over the world and he will preach and become very famous, in spreading Krishna consciousness. And then also his father had desired that he didn't want him to be like a barrister, but he wanted him to have a mridanga in his hand and chant. And, that's what the father wanted. His desire was like that. And something similar came out in the astrology also. And Srila Prabhupada fulfilled that desire of his father. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. So in case of Prabhupada's horoscope also, many things were predicted which came out to be true. And I think in today's reference, one of the astrologers said that Prabhupada the fatal date is February 1978, but Prabhupada left before that, in November 1977, 14 November, I believe. So,
and that too under Prabhupada's own will, because he said, remember, I want to go to Vrindavan. So that failed. Astrology failed there.
Pure devotees, they definitely pass away on their own will. So it is not possible that karma can influence their passing away. I mean, they don't have any karma, so there is no question of no. But horoscope does give a good indication of our future life or our nature, what is good for us, what is good for us according to our nature, what line should we choose in terms of business, work. That can give a good indication. And but it ultimately depends on us, because Krishna will arrange situations for us in such a way that we never expected like that. And because he knows our inclination, our nature, the emphasis, the priority that we want to give to him, that also understands. So depending on that, Krishna will probably also arrange. But for that, we require to have patience. So it is not necessary that whatever the astrologer says that we have to follow that. It is like you take guidance and then you contemplate on that. And depending on your Krishna consciousness, the priority of Krishna consciousness, you take decisions. It's not that whatever he says, okay, just do it. But what is important is that it should not hamper, it should not affect our Krishna consciousness. The ultimate idea is that we should keep advancing in our spirituality. We should not compromise that. So based on that, we have to take decisions. If that is our intention, attitude, then that's I think it will harmonize everything. Otherwise, our faith will be diverted. It will be diverted towards astrology and will give less importance to Krishna consciousness. So this is what Prabhupada, and as you said, rightly said, that Prabhupada was able to read minds. He was able to understand the disciples' attitude, mood, feeling, and depending on that, on different contexts, he said different things. But you will see that most of the cases in that we have come across, Prabhupada says, for devotees, not necessary. Astrology is not necessary, right? So, and very specifically, Prabhupada gave that astrological importance in the context of health, in the context of something which is very important for devotees' health. So otherwise, I don't think, like, I do remember, I think there is one particular context in which Prabhupada says that he does not prefer to travel on Wednesdays. Like astrologically, it is not good to travel on Wednesday. And Prabhupada did mention about it somewhere. So yeah, there are different aspects of Prabhupada's personalities. And I think what Prabhupada was also trying to convey is that devotees should also recognize and appreciate astrology. It is also part of Vedic scripture. So they should not minimize it. They should not criticize it also. And so they should understand the importance of astrology, because it is, in one sense, it is connected to the Lord ultimately. It is part of the Vedic scriptures. So the Lord has all potency. He's full of all the opulences. So the Lord knows the past, present, future of all living entities. And this idea we can get from the astrology. If a person can predict, like if an ordinary jiva can predict the future of another person, then we can just imagine what can the Lord do. So the astrology is also one of the, it is also revealing the opulence of the Lord, right? Like that it can be seen. So these are all, like, for example, the material world also described in the Bhagavatam. The cosmology, the fifth canto is described, right? So why it is like that? Because by appreciating the arrangement of the Lord, the systematic arrangement of the Lord, the symmetry of the structure of the universe, and the dimensions of the universe, we can understand how great the Lord is actually, and how bigger the Lord is than anything else. So it is rightly said, in the Bhagavad Gita also, that he is bigger than the biggest and smaller than the smallest, like that. So we can appreciate all these contrary qualities of the Lord. That's why we have to understand about the material world also, about the material energy also. So this is all Sambandh Gyan in relation with the Lord, like that.
Yes, Prabhuji. So Prabhuji, I remember in 1992, my father passed away. All of a sudden, he had a stroke and then he didn't survive. So what happened is that we were really surprised and shocked, actually, because if a person has cancer or some conditioning, then we know that, what level it is. But when suddenly something happens. So I remember after that, we consulted an astrologer to see whether, we should have looked into it. All of a sudden, what happened? So one astrologer said, yes, he would live a small, like a short life. But then another astrologer said, no, I see that he lived a long life. That is a time when I remember, this is in 1990s, I completely lost my faith. I said, what is this? We consult one astrologer is saying something different, other one different. But then later on, when I came into Krishna consciousness, I realized that his role was finished and he had to leave, so it was in Krishna's hand. Because sometimes people say, like, oh, this person gave so much of stress, or because of this situation, the children were not listening and the death happened. People blame each other, but it is not it's not something which is in human hand, because going is completely in Krishna's hand, right?
See, actually, I would share one thing, that astrology in a science in itself is perfect. Like, for example, all these Jyotish Sastra, they were written down by sages like Parasar Muni and Bhrigu. Prabhupada also, in the reference that we have just shared, it is mentioned, Prabhupada quotes the Bhrigu Samhita, and he says that Bhrigu Samhita is perfect in terms of past, present, future of a living entity. So that is depending on the position of the planets, the sages are able to easily reveal to us what is going to be our future. So Narad Muni, for example, right? He was also Trikal Gyani. Ved Vyas is Trikal Gyani. So many sages in the past were Trikal Gyani. So similarly, the problem is that in today's world, in modern world, the interpretation is not done properly. although the astrological science is perfect in itself, but the interpretation is not done. That's why you will see different opinions amongst different astrologers. You'll not find consistency in all of them. So they will differ in their interpretation. And I think that interpretation comes from their purity also and their own depth in spirituality. So if a person is highly spiritual, like for example, in case of Prabhupada also, he also used to predict certain things for disciples, and that used to come, it came true, right? So Nitya Siddhas, they are empowered by the Shakti of the Lord. So whatever they say, it does happen. They don't even have to bother about the position of the planets and everything. It is all inspired by the Lord from within, especially the devotees. But those who are karmis and they would like to become astrologers and consult people, then they will have to become spiritually strong. They will have to have, they should, that's why you'll see that most of the astrologers, they believe in demigods. They have deities of demigods in their offices, and they worship the demigods for a long time. So some spirituality, the strength has to be there in order to read the charts, to understand. So that's why one time Prabhupada here also, he says that you don't even have to read the devotee charts, because just by clapping in front of deities, your karmas are changed. And so similarly, Prabhupada also said, I think, when someone went to an astrologer, some devotee went to an astrologer, that particular astrologer said that, well, you are devotees of Krishna, and so I cannot predict your charts because your lines are changed, your karma is changed anytime, and I will not be able to read your charts because anything can happen for devotees. So he did acknowledge the fact that for devotees, this can change at any point of time, right? So this is the thing with devotees. It is not that astrology, even if the astrology is there, even if the perfect science, someone is going to reveal that to you, but if the Lord desires something else, then it can change also for a devotee. So that is important.
Yes, Prabhuji, like you mentioned one point that if there is some kind of a negative situation coming in a devotee's life, then it is Krishna's, he wants to purify. You mentioned this line.
Yeah. So
right?
It is basically because maybe it is coming from aparadh, or it is Krishna's arrangement to purify us, or to test us. So these are the only two reasons. Otherwise, devotees generally, they are not suffering because of their karmas in the past. They are mostly suffering because of these two reasons.
So what if devotees are also their propensities are there and that propensity, or maybe sometimes the influence of family or whatever, and they do commit some aparadh, like anger, lust, greed that comes in, although they're doing the 4 regulatives and chanting. So what happens to that then?
So see, if you are, there are different types of aparadh. Now, first of all, aparadh means aparadh to the devotees. That is the most severe type of aparadh. Then aparadh to the holy name. Then then there is aparadh to the jivas. So and then obviously amongst the devotees also there is aparadh to the uttamadhikari, aparadh to the madhyamadhikari, and the aparadh to the kanishta, depending on the devotee whom you offend. And if that devotee is your uttamadhikari, then you get a very severe reaction. If he's madhyama, you get less severe reaction. And if he's kanishta, then very less reaction. But in any case, because you committed aparadh to a devotee, so there will be some slackening in your Krishna consciousness. Some there'll be falling down of your consciousness to some degree. So, and then aparadh to the jivas. So that's another category of aparadh, where we identify that everyone is servant of the Lord. So we should not harm, or we should not even offend any living entity. So if we do that, then there will be some aparadh will be there. So lust, anger, envy, all these qualities, if they are engaged in Krishna service and for spreading Krishna consciousness or protecting devotees, then it is okay. Then it is absolutely fine. But if it is done against the devotees, then it is an aparadha. So we have to be careful. Okay, and all these anathas, they will go away depending on the consciousness that we develop, depending on the sincerity that we have. So gradually it will all go away, but it can take a long time also. So that we have to,
Yes.
because see, it is ultimately relative. We have Brahma's life, and Shastra, when it says that quickly it will go away, it is actually referring to in comparison with Brahma's lifetime. So quickly for Brahma's lifetime can also mean thousands of lifetimes for us. It's also quick, because for Brahma, 1,000 of lifetime is like a moment. That is also quick, right? So, but by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mercy, Prabhupada's mercy, I think for us it is possible to go back to Godhead in 3 lifetimes. If not
Yes.
1 lifetime, then maybe 3 lifetimes. Nam Aprad, Nam Abhas, and Shuddhanam.
Thank you, Prabhuji. And while you were answering these questions, I remember in one of the cantos we did the cosmology, and I still remember the lovely slides you showed, and they had such an impact on us. So I was thinking if there's some important, in your notes, important, I would say something in PowerPoint that you have prepared from the Bhagavatam, Srimad Bhagavatam, and there are different topics that you can take up with us, because it really helps us. And eventually, right now we're in 6th canto, but we're moving towards coming to the close of half. So there's a lot more. But I was thinking if there is anything else, any other topic, then you're more than welcome to continue with us. Will you be doing more on this topic today, next time?
No, I think we are pretty much done with astrology. And our next topic I was thinking is about, I think many devotees, they don't know that whether Krishna returned back to Vrindavan or not. So I was thinking about that. Krishna is
Okay.
returning to Vrindavan
Yeah.
after leaving for Mathura and Dwarka. Okay.
And Prabhuji,
So actually, Mataji, I have to leave in
Okay.
5 minutes
Prabhuji,
now.
one more
because
thing,
this is a
one last thing.
funeral ceremony I have to attend.
Okay.
So I think Arth Prabhu is trying to ask a question. So
Sure.
maybe I can just take that one question and then we can, I have to go. Maybe we can, in the month of July, I don't remember the date, but I think it is probably mid-July. So yeah, and you can WhatsApp me if you have any more questions.
What I wanted to ask is about, I know a person who was dissatisfied with astrology. He went to numerology. Is there a basis of that in Vedas?
See, in one particular reference, the devotee does mention about numerology and astrology, and Prabhupada, and he asked Prabhupada whether it is bona fide. Prabhupada said yes. So maybe numerology is also bona fide. And Prabhupada also does mention about this Hora astrology, which is maybe another branch of astrology. So I'm not sure about numerology, but it seems Prabhupada did not say that, numerology is not bona fide, but astrology is bona fide. So I assume that numerology is also maybe one of the branches of astrology, or it is also bona fide.
So and the second thing is that computer horoscope. So those are all without any potency of the computers cannot have potency. So how will it?
See, it is although it is computerized, but someone has interpreted that. So once you map the horoscope on the computer, then there are some general interpretations which the astrologers they have already mentioned in the software. So that's how you get some indication from that. But obviously it is not completely reliable, because you don't get a personal first-hand experience from the computerized horoscopes. So better to consult some astrologer who can give in-depth knowledge. He can share many details about it, but you will not get that from general, because obviously when you personally see and you can understand many details which the software will not be able to accommodate. And obviously if you shift the entire system to computerization, then how many of us will go to astrologers then? So it is just generally given. At least they can indicate how many gunas are matching. That one information is possible, but not the details.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you
Okay,
so
all
much.
right. So sorry,
Yeah.
but I have to leave now. And hopefully, if devotees they have questions, then they can WhatsApp me or they can ask in the next class also. So I'll
If
be
any
happy
other
to.
question is there, I can share Prabhuji's number also. So Vancha Kalpatarubhascha Kripa Sindhu Eva Patitanam Pavane.
Thank you all the
Ananda-
devotees for giving me this opportunity to serve you all. Thank you so much. And
Thank you,
next
Prabhu.
month we'll come with some other topic. Hare Krishna,
Prabhuji,
Lord
share the
Ram to
recording
everyone.
when you have time. Please share the recording.
Sure.
Hare Krishna.